So after we define the UML diagram, we can start implement our class in a program. So you see here we have the class name, the data field including the variable name and the data type. Then you have constructor function and also different method including the variable name and the data type. And also don't forget, sometimes your method may have return type. So then you have your command to have the return type. Once you create a circle class, you see you can create different circle object. So then that's the circle class. So then we can have circle 1, circle 2, circle 3 for the different circle object. So let's see here, after we have the UML diagram about the circle class, how should we write the circle class? So here is the sample code. The sample code actually will be very similar. So when you open a Java class, you just create a Java class, then you specify the class name is circle. So by default, we always have the public class. You see that you have defined before, right? Just before you define that a class, you right away to write a main method. But now, no, we don't write any main method. We just have a circle class. So after you have circle class definition, of course, you need to have braces to have the open braces and close braces. So all your data field and the method will be here. Usually, please put your data field at the beginning. So like earlier, we only have a circle radius, right? So that's why we define a radius. So radius double, so then you define double radius. So then one by one, you can have different method. But here the method we talk about is, they are all instance method. So the first one we call the constructor method. When we want to write a constructor method in Java, they are the same as C++. All the constructor function or method, they are very special. They have the same exactly class name as their method name. And also all the constructor method, they don't have return type. So that's why you can see earlier our UML diagram, I only say that's my constructor method. You see they are the same name as the class. So then if I have any constructor method without any parameter list, we call they are default constructor. But sometimes you can specify your parameter in your constructor. So that's why here we have two constructor. One constructor, no parameter. The other constructor, they can specify the radius. So that's why here you will see the default constructor is we try to initialize all the data field. So constructor mainly the meaning mean how to initialize all the value for your data field. So since our circle now we only have one data field radius, so we're just using the radius equal to 1. That's the default constructor. That means if user didn't specify the radius, we just automatically set the radius equal to 1. So then you can specify another constructor, but this constructor, they can pass in the radius value before we creating the object. So that's why we have another parameter is data type double. So we call this radius variable is new radius. So this value is the parameter passing value. So then we need to using this value to assign to our radius in our data field. So that's the two constructor function. So there you see continue. Actually, whenever you want to write a class, just according to the UML diagram I gave you, then you write one by one. So then you see we have the get area, we have get parameter, we have set radius method. So we just write one by one. So the get radius, get area. So get area, the return type is double. So then we just need to return the radius times math.py. Also, that's a constant number from the math class. So then we have get parameter. So the same thing, return type is double. Yeah, so then we just calculate 2 times radius times pi is the parameter, so we return. Okay, so the next one is important method. We call set radius. A lot of time, if you have your parameter list in the class, sometimes we want to update the data. So then we have the set method. So usually the setter method, we just using the set keyword. Then you add the method on the data field name. So we see set radius. So sometimes after user define a circle, we allow them to change their radius. So then the same thing, they can pass in the new radius value. So then we assign to the radius for this circle. So then, yes, this one is your first class definition for circle class. So I want you to make sure you download the circle class, circle.java file. So then run from your Eclipse. But now you can see here, actually you cannot run anything because this one just a circle.java file. If you try to run this program, actually they have nothing. They still run the old program. So when you try to run it, actually you have nothing output in the console. The reason is this one actually just a class definition. So then we don't have any main function to run to test this program. So that's why after you finish that, we define the circle class. The next one I want to show you, how should we create a circle object? So after we finish the circle.java file, let's create a circle object. So class are definition for object. Then the object are created from the class. So the next one, that's define. We have the class defined, then how to create the object. Right, so that's why here, let's have another Java file called testcircle.java. So this one, the same thing, I give you the sample file. But then let me explain to you, so then we can run. So before we see the detail, then let me show you from the Eclipse how they look like. So then here I have the circle.java file. Then we have the test circle. So this test circle, let's change the model name is 4. So you will see here, this circle, test circle, the Java file is we will really create the circle object. So then I have a class called test circle.java. So then this one, right, so you see here is the purpose is to run the program. So right, we have the main method. So then let me show you the first one. How to create the circle. Then we create the circle. We need to create the object, right? So create the circle object. The first thing you need to define a circle object variable reference name. We call C1. So you see C1 data type is circle. So this circle, capital circle, that means the data type came from the circle.java. C1 actually is one kind of circle class. So that's the C1 refer to an object. So remember, Java are pure object-oriented concept. So whenever you want to create a new object, you need to using the new keyword. Then you see you have two different ways. So then you need to call the constructor function. So the circle class, remember earlier we have two constructor functions. The first one, default constructor. So when you say new circle parentheses, they will invoke this default constructor. So when they invoke this default constructor, you see they make radius equal to 1. So then after we create this new circle C1, we can try to print out some information. So then we can see the area of the circle of radius equal to what? Right, so you see C1. I want to get the C1 radius. I just using the object reference name dot radius. So the radius actually is the radius we have here. So then you see later you will see the output, they will display C1 dot radius equal to 1. So then get area, they will invoke the get area method. So 1 times 1 will be pi. So you see the first one, we create one C1 circle, call the default constructor. Then, right, let's create another circle because we have two different constructors, right? So then you can specify your radius name is 25. So again, I create C2 object reference variable name. I call new, then I call constructor function. So I call the second constructor function. I pass the radius equal to 25. So then when you display, you will see the C2.radius is 25. The area will be 25 times 25 times pi. So then that's how we create two objects. And also then you see you can C1.radius to reassign the value. So now C1 radius become 10. Then C2 radius become 125. So the same thing, that's print the result again. You will see their radius changed. Okay, so make sure you will run this program on your IDE. So that's why now when we run the program, you will see the output. So my output is on the left, on the right. So that's why I show you here. So that's my output. You can see beginning is C1 radius is 1, C2 is 25. So then we change the C1 become radius 10, then C2 become 125. So then you get your area information. Of course, if you want, you can format to do the print format to specify how many decimal places you want to display. So that's our test.circle.java file. So after you run these two source files, test.circle.java and java circle.java file, and these two is what we visually I show you. We call that as the source file. So they are under SRC. So usually in your homework assignment, lab exercise, that's the source file you submit. But after you run the program, then you will see they have two bytecode class file under the bin directory. So then we'll see they will have exactly the same file name, but extension is .class. That's what we usually call the Java bytecode binary file. So in the circle.java, just pure circle class definition, so that there is no main method. For the test circle.java file is our driver program, so we only have a main method to see how we run the program. So sometimes in the production, in the software industry, we always have one Java file only have one class definition. Then we have driver program separated. But for this class, sometimes your homework assignment, I want you to define a class, but also have the main function to run the program. So that's why here we show you two different versions. One version, we have one Java file, circle.java file, and the driver program separately. But sometimes if your circle file, your circle class definition is only using for one time. So then you can have your main method before your class definition. So that's why that's the other program, simple circle.java file. For this one, you can see you have the first one is exactly the same main method we have in the test circle.java file. But continue, you will see they will have also the circle class definition. So if you open this file in the Eclipse, so that's our simple.circle class. So then you will see here, they have the main method, okay, at the beginning. Then you have exactly the same class definition afterward. So then this one actually just combine all together. So if you run, they have the same result. So that's all up to you how you implement. But most of the time in our class, we will do this way. But in the industry field, we always have class in